and gentlemen, hello and welcome to our English news edition coming to you from Canal, Algérie. I'm your host, Maysa Doumas. To the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, chairs today a Council of Ministers devoted to the examination of a draft bill related to the judicial division and a set of presentations pertaining to vital sectors. The Algerian national football team is to face today Equatorial Guinea as part of the African Cup of Nations tournament with a sole objective to win the game and progress to the next round. And the UN Special Envoy to Western Sahara, Staffan de Mistura, arrives to the refugee camps with a view to resuming the stalled peace process in the region. Those were today's headlines. First in our news, the President of the Republic, Supreme Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense Abdelmajid Tebboune chairs today a meeting of the Council of Ministers devoted to the examination of the draft bill related to the judicial division and presentations pertaining to the sectors of interior, agriculture, public works, environment, social security and housing. At the end of the new media fair of Amazigh Art, the President of the National People's Assembly or Lower House of Parliament, Brahim Boughali, recalled on Saturday the importance of recognizing the Amazigh art and culture throughout the country, a cultural richness which is part and parcel of the Algerian identity. Pursuant to the guidelines of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, Supreme Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, and after consulting the scientific committee in charge of monitoring the evolution of the coronavirus pandemic, Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman decided the examination of the current protection and prevention system for a period of 10 days, starting from Saturday to January 15, 2022. To COVID-19 updates now, 505 new confirmed cases of coronavirus, 316 recovered and 11 deaths were recorded in the last 24 hours in Algeria, according to a communiqué by the Health Ministry, who keeps reiterating that getting vaccinated is the only way to curb this pandemic once and for all. With the rise of the COVID-19 cases, specialists are sounding the alarm and calling on the population to be vaccinated to avoid a fourth wave. The details with Ines Killo.
Following the third wave of the COVID-19 outbreak caused by the Delta variant in Algeria, epidemiological indicators announce a fourth wave. According to specialists, preparing for this new wave must pass through vaccination.
We were actually expecting this fourth wave, which began gradually a month and a half ago, and days of which are about to accelerate, so we call on citizens to get vaccinated since it is the only way at the present time.
Since last December, the number of citizens presenting themselves at the health facilities has increased significantly. The report is alarming, a slackening regarding the respect of barrier gestures, and people are reluctant.
One of the characteristics of Omicron is that it is not dangerous as the Delta, but it is more contagious. And the problem is that we will have less serious cases, but it will be a heavy burden for hospitals.
Accelerating vaccination is more necessary than ever before to prevent an even more virulent fourth wave, and compliance with health preventive measures remains an imperative in facing recent slackening in vaccination rates.
On to sports now, where Algeria faces today Equatorial Guinea as part of the African Cup of Nations being hosted by the Cameroon. The national football coach Jamal Belmadi held in Douala a press conference during which he harked back on the conditions surrounding this major game. More details with Leticia Sadqawi.
During the press conference on the eve of the match against Equatorial Guinea, the national coach Jamal Belmadi answered the questions of the journalists present in Douala. The national coach talked about the state of mind of the players.
The state of mind is simply to focus on winning. It is the goal for the second match that is expected to be as difficult as the first.
Ahead of the second match, the coach is taking the opponent very seriously.
There is no small teams in Africa as we saw these first matches. All big teams struggle since everyone is in a good shape. Our next opponent is a team that caused problems for Tunisia in the World Cup qualifiers. It is a team that's capable of scoring with a Spanish style of play since the majority of its players grew up and played in Spain.
The journalists gave the national coach the opportunity to focus on certain factors that complicate the task of the team, including the state of the grass pitch.
It is true that these conditions added to the state of the grass does not make our job easy. I'm not saying it is catastrophic, but it is not at the level that we expect from big tournaments like the African Cup. We train every day at 5 p.m. and we can notice that the weather is completely different from 2 p.m. The only problem is that we are playing after Côte d'Ivoire and Sierra Leone on a grass that's already not perfect. There's a tiny issue there, but we have to manage through it all, no matter the weather or the state of the field. We are playing to win.
As usual, the coach has made it clear that he is ready for the rest of the competition with one goal: to win.
The national football team has ended its preparations for facing Equatorial Guinea. The Desert Foxes are in a good mood to win and pave the way for a qualification to the next round of competition. Leticia Sitqawi once again.
It was the last training session for the national football team before the second match versus Equatorial Guinea. A technical and tactical session that witnessed the absence of three players, namely Adam Unnas, Ramiz Zarouqi and Mustafa Zaghba.
We're preparing for this second match. We know very well that it is not an easy game. We hope to win. The weather conditions are not favorable, but it is not an excuse. We will do our utmost to win. We're all aware of the importance of this match. We will give everything to win this game.
A very good atmosphere prevailed with the Desert Warriors, but above all, a firm determination to snatch victory and get ready for the last game of the group stage.
In his capacity as the personal envoy of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, Foreign Affairs and National Community Abroad Minister Ramtan Al-Amamra met with His Highness Sheikh Mansour bin Zayed Al Nahyan, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Emirati Presidential Affairs, as part of his working visit to the United Arab Emirates. The Amamra conveyed to His Highness the fraternal and sincere greetings of the President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, to His Highness and to all members of Al Zayed family, and handed him a letter from the President of the Republic to his counterpart, the Emirati head of state. The meeting was a good opportunity to reaffirm the strong will of both parties to pursue joint efforts and promote bilateral cooperation in the economic field. The discussions also focused on the preparations for the next Arab summit in Algiers. The General Caliph of Tariqa Tijaniya, Al-Arabi, Ali Al-Arabi, was received by the Nigerian President Muhammad Buhari in the presence of the high-level Algerian delegation and Algeria's ambassador to Nigeria. Were present the governor of the city of Kano and senior Nigerian government officials. During this meeting, both parties recalled the symbolism of this visit. To economy news now, and the latest investment incentives implemented in the new budget law 2022 by the government. The measures are taken to encourage investors. Let's follow this report by Karim Faz Zachary.
2022 marks a milestone for the national economy with the implementation of business climate incentives, thanks to the latest decisions by the President of the Republic. We've reached out to some investors to see what's actually going to change and what their expectations are to get the industry out of the rut. Just in Blida province, 2,000 applications for access to land bases have been filed since 2012. The creation of the National Agency of Industrial Land is highly anticipated. I hail this initiative, which will eliminate all the red tapeism at the administrative level. At the moment, we're waiting for the installation of this agency. Once this is done, we're going to be in touch with them so we can together develop structured industrial lands. This kind of initiative gives hope. However, it has to be something concrete, because we used to hear similar information. From the relevant authorities and ministries, but at the level of lower departments, they are either not aware or not informed at all, and they can't do anything. The only competent authorities are the governors, who are technically in touch with us all the time. In terms of bureaucratic obstacles, flexibilities are already evident on the ground. Other difficulties are addressed by economic operators. In terms of raw material, for example, paper is not available. We do not have a production unit of paper. They have to seriously think of this sector of endeavor and make paper factories. We have a problem with raw material and the administration in general. We still believe in our country and we still have hope in our government. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. We would have invested elsewhere. But no, we've been here for 3 years and we have been eagerly waiting for the President's initiative to be materialized on the ground. Plastic raw material is all imported. There is no production in Algeria, so we have to think of petrochemical industry. And Algeria has all the means to do just that. All the raw material is available. We just need to create petrochemical factories to make plastic, for instance. We're hoping that there will be a real economic relaunch. Our objective is a win-win to create job opportunities. In terms of economic recovery, the role of the agricultural sector is predominant. This sector presents promising export perspectives and thus income away from hydrocarbon sector. The year 2022 is a year I think that will be marked by exports. Things started to move honestly. We noticed that there is some freedom, but authorities just need to consult with exporters and farmers and all who produce Algerian products. The implementation of a new investment code, the Industrial Land Agency, the facilitation measures provided for in Budget Law 2022, and the removal of bureaucratic obstacles are all likely to liberate investment and promote the national product.
The personal envoy of the UN Secretary General for Western Sahara, Staffan de Mistura, arrived in the Sahrawi refugee camps with an aim to constructively relaunch the political process in Western Sahara. The details with Melissa Kabash.
The personal envoy of the United Nations Secretary General to Western Sahara, Staffan de Mistura, arrived on Saturday to the Sahrawi refugee camps in the region of Smara. For the last 2 days, the UN diplomat will hold talks with the Sahrawi leaders concerning the means of resuming a constructive political dialogue in Western Sahara. The UN envoy's visit comes in a particular context, marked by the ceasefire violation agreement by Morocco, following the aggression against defenseless Sahrawi civilians in the Guerguerat buffer zone on November 13, 2020. De Mistura will also have to deal with Moroccan maneuvers to prevent finding any solutions to the conflict in the last African colony and grant the Sahrawi people the right to self-determination.
The visit of Staffan de Mistura, the 5th UN envoy, comes in a different context because we're at war with the Moroccan occupation forces following their violation to the ceasefire agreement, which broke the peace process initiated by the United Nations in Western Sahara. The violation hindered all the efforts deployed by the UN and brought us back to the starting point. We will listen to Mr. de Mistura and outline our perspectives concerning the peace process. We don't expect much because it is only a visit. The Polisario Front will not be involved in negotiations, but we will listen only.
Everything leads to believe that de Mistura's visit to the region doesn't differ from those of his predecessors, whose work have been disrupted by the Makhzen regime, which rejected all the previous peace attempts to settle the Sahrawi conflict.
While waiting for a political solution to the Western Saharan conflict, the Sahrawi people continue to suffer. 20,000 Sahrawis have fallen victims to anti-personnel mines, and the number of victims is unfortunately increasing. More details in this report with Ines Kello.
The Makhzen regime continues its series of heinous crimes and human rights violations against the Sahrawi people. The Sahrawi Association of Anti-Personnel Mines Victims has recorded an increase in the number of victims of these deadly devices, planted particularly along the wall of sand over a length of 2,700 kilometers. Today, there are about 20 mines for each individual and more than 2,500 Sahrawis injured since 1975. The number of deaths remain unknown until this day.
The majority of Sahrawi lands are dangerous zones. The mines have caused thousands of casualties since the 1980s until today. We called on the United Nations to intervene and send a commission of inquiry to eliminate these explosives.
The Sahrawi Association of Mine Victims, on the other hand, has sounded the alarm about the increasing crimes committed against Sahrawi activists in the occupied territories.
There are more than 30,000 cases of arbitrary arrest and more than 4,500 people reported missing. This catastrophic situation, considered as a genocide against the Sahrawi people, has worsened after violating the ceasefire by Morocco. In the same context, we have recorded several cases of aggression against activists.
These explosives are wreaking havoc in the Sahrawi territories. The victims and the population call on the Moroccan occupier to assume its responsibility and acknowledge its crimes committed against innocent civilians.
With the aim to preserve their ancestors' heritage, Namalika, along with Da Mohammed, transformed their own home, situated in the province of Tizi Ouzou, to a museum. The details with Melissa Kabash.
May seems as a normal home, but this house located in the village of Ait Hadda in Tizi Ouzou province is actually a museum transformed by its owners, Namalika and Da Mohammed, so as to pay tribute to the memory of the elders.
This house is 60 to 70 years old. My mother-in-law lived there alongside her husband and children. May God have mercy on her. Da Fatma.
This house was built in 1956 with mud and stones. The whole family lived here, but 48 members.
We want this new generation to realize the importance of our ancestral heritage in order to preserve it.
Built in 1950, this house surely resisted to time. Therefore, we find several tools dating back to the 80s, such as carpets, pottery, and metal, as well as souvenirs of the region.
Our village has a rich history. It participated in the independence of our country. We were known for fabricating tools for the daily life.
Children are taught to respect their heritage. Just like many others, these children visit the Namalika and Da Mohammed Museum to learn more about their homeland and traditions.
I love the house of Nana Malika because it allows me to learn about the traditions left by our ancestors.
Full of memories, this Berber house will forever preserve the good old days, the history and the traditions of this village.
Let's delve now into the realm of music to discover the musical show performed by Ahl al-Fan Association. More details with Rania al-Bahri.
Few minutes from the beginning of the show, the musicians and dancers of the Ahl al-Fan Association are preparing themselves to go on stage after more than 2 years of absence due to coronavirus pandemic. The musicians are eager to find their audience with a rich and varied program. We took over Algerian heritage songs. We revisit them with a new musical style with the fresh melodies. We hope to be up to expectations with our audience, who we missed so much. It's been 2 years since we stopped our activity due to COVID-19 health crisis. Today, we are going to present the double album, which has varied musical style such as Andalusian and Algerian music in general. Carried away by various melodies of different musical styles, the public traveled from Andalus to Granada via housey music style, a rich and unique show of its kind, always inspired by Algerian heritage with some Western touches. This group made a diversity between music and dance. It was really special show. I'm really impressed. I'm very proud of this show. I every time come here and encourage them. And I also encourage Mrs. Nasreen Bourahla. 2 hours of artistic performance performed by Nasreen Bourahla and her orchestra, who delighted the audience before announcing the release of their latest album entitled Andalusia.
That was it for our news edition. Thanks for tuning in to our program. Good night.